Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Marvin's World. I decided to do something a little bit different. Instead of doing vlogs, I'm gonna try a book review, essentially, is what this is. Not essentially, that is what this is. I have a reading goal of 2 books per month for the year of 2023. I want to read 2 books every month. January, I read 3. That's a little steep, so I'm gonna say 2 per month. I feel like that's a good goal for me personally. So, in theory, I will have a video every month with a book review. Let's get into it. This is not sponsored or anything by Goodreads or whatever, but I did use Goodreads to track my books for the month, and I'm gonna continue to do that throughout the rest of 2023 just because I feel like it's a good format. It's easy to use. You can have a list of the books that you are currently reading, the books that you want to read, and then the books that you've already read. So I like the way that it categorizes it. I feel like it's easy. Just a suggestion if you want to keep track of your books. Not sponsored. I do like to annotate my books. That's something I started doing last year and then want to continue to do. I usually only do it like the second time I read a book because I like to reread books if I like them. And I like to, if I really enjoy like a story, I'm gonna pick out every little detail. Every little detail. If you've watched my policeman vlog from months ago now at this point, I said that I've picked that book apart. Almost to like an extreme amount. Not almost, it's to an extreme amount, but that's fine. But recently I got these in the mail. I just got them off Amazon. They were like $6 for there's like 5 of these sheets. And I'm excited to use them so that I don't have to keep using like the flags because the flags don't highlight as nice. Hopefully these work, and I'm excited to use these going forward. Cause like, look at that. That's so satisfying to be able to like highlight a line. I can't wait. That was just some preliminary stuff. Let's get into it. First book that I read this year, The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. If you know me in real life, you probably know that I love Sylvia Plath. If you've ever been into my bedroom or in my apartment, there's Sylvia Plath quotes like everywhere. Like everywhere. I absolutely love her poetry. I have a pair of pants that I painted with a Sylvia Plath quote, and I wore them to death in college. So I love Sylvia Plath. However, I'm a slacker and I haven't read The Bell Jar until this year. That's my bad. So if anyone doesn't know The Bell Jar, that's fine. I didn't until the beginning of this month. I'm gonna read the back to you. It has a quote on it. This is the 50th anniversary edition. This isn't like the original book or anything, but this is like gorgeous. It's like metallic pink. Love that. I would also like to say that I get a lot of my books off thrift books. Again, not sponsored, but thrift books I'm in love with, and I would marry a website if I could. So this was pretty beat up. I treat my books with kindness. Someone really loved this book and was a little aggressive with it or something. I don't know, but it's got a lot of wear and tear. I think there was some water damage because some of the pages are a little... You can just tell. You can just tell it's been through the ringer. But it's fine because I paid like $3 for it off thrift books, and it was sent directly to my house. So I can't really complain. I'm going to take good care of it. This spine has been broken in like 3 different places, which I didn't even think was possible. You know when you can just see. It's a little rough, but it's fine. Still reads the same. I'm gonna read the quote on the back because then I feel like it gives you a good image of what the book is about. I can't read out loud. Here's the thing about me. I'm gonna restart that quote. I can read very quickly in my head. Reading words and then saying them out loud is sometimes not my strong suit. Sorry. Felt very still and very empty. The way the eye of a tornado must feel, moving dully along in the middle of the surrounding hullabaloo. I love the word hullabaloo. not used nearly enough. Okay, so this particular copy does not have like the synopsis on the back. It has it in the front cover, which is fun. So I'm gonna read that to you. Esther Greenwood is brilliant, beautiful, enormously talented, and successful, but slowly going under, maybe for the last time. In her acclaimed and enduring masterwork, Sylvia Plath brilliantly draws the reader into Esther's breakdown with such intensity that her insanity becomes palpably real, even rational. As accessible an experience as going to the movies. A deep penetration into the darkest and most harrowing corners of the human psyche, The Bell Jar is an extraordinary accomplishment and a haunting American classic. This is a classic. I feel like a lot of people who appreciate like literature and blah, 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 like have read this book. Like this is one of those books that it's like everyone should read this. I would put this in the same boat as like To Kill a Mockingbird, which is my favorite book. Which is a lot of people's favorite books, which is a book that you need to read before you die. You know, I would put this in that. However, I will say, this is not for the faint of heart. It's not for the faint of heart. It's really dark and like quite sad, but dark in a way not to be like it's not unrealistic. It's very real. It is very real, and I think that's unfortunate that it's very real. If you read it, you know what I'm talking about. I will say Sylvia Plath, the way that she writes is so gripping, and it really like keeps you into the book. Like I'm baffled every time I read something of hers. I'm like, wow. And she's also one of those authors that when I read stuff from her, I'm like, she gets it. She gets it. I also have to say, I do not identify as female at my 20 years of age, but I was raised as a girl. I lived for like 17 years of my life as a girl. So I feel like anyone who was raised female or was like assigned female at birth, or if you still identify as a woman, or if you identify as a woman later on in life, I feel like you'll just get it. You'll just get it. You'll just get The Bell Jar. It's very much, Sylvia Plath is very much a feminist writer, and it's almost scary how she's able to like capture the female mind in writing. It's absolutely insane. The book deals with a lot of topics that could potentially be triggering for people. Just want to put that out there. They could definitely be triggering for people. I'm very sensitive when it comes to topics of unaliving. Basically what I'm saying is if you know how Sylvia Plath died, you're going to read about that topic in The Bell Jar, is what I am saying. Google. If you struggle with or know someone who struggles with SH, not going to be easy to read. It's just not. It definitely has a lot of dark elements, but like I said, it's very real. It is very real. Not to sound too depressing, but that's my take on it. You have to think too, like, it's not set that long ago. The 50s? This book was written, the copyright is, I think it's like 1971. This was published after she died, which like sometimes I have a problem with that because I'm like, was the world meant to read this? I think yes, in this case. I think 100% yes. And I also think it helps you like understand Sylvia Plath as a person. But The Bell Jar is copyright 1971. I think it was originally published the year that she died. Absolute fool. You know this information. It was originally published 1963, the year that she died, but it was not under her name. It was under like a fake writing name. It was officially like copyright and, you know, I think printed to the masses after she died, but it was 1971. But it's set in like, I think the 50s or 60s. Anyway, 50s, not a great time for women. Simply not. My apologies if you can hear my heater going. Basically, the book follows the life of Esther Greenwood. Obviously, women throughout history have not been treated the nicest and have often, their mental health or like their emotional states have been ridiculously reacted to. I don't even know how to put it, But if a woman would show any amount of emotion, it's like, oh my God, you're hysterical. You are crazy for feeling an emotion. God forbid you have a reaction to the horrible world you live in. God forbid you feel that it's not right to be treated a certain way. Like, you know what I'm saying. Spoiler. It discusses a lot of like, oh, you are having trouble sleeping at night? You must be crazy. Let's shock your brain. Let's give you electroshock therapy. That will solve your problems as a human being. That is really going to help you a lot. It is. It's going to help you. It's definitely not going to give you brain damage and make you a walking zombie. That is not what will happen. You'll actually be cured. That line of thinking will never make sense to me. Because it doesn't make sense. Scientifically, you can be like, I don't know how anyone thought, yes, that is a solution. So there's a lot of women that are put in like, mental asylums because it's like, oh my God, you're emotional? What? Crazy. You're being put in a hospital, which is infuriating. It's infuriating. If you're a human with any amount of heart or brain, you would know that is just the most ridiculous and absurd thing ever. But unfortunately, that is what people thought. And some people, unfortunately, still do. And I think that is absolutely bonkers. I would give this book a 10 out of 10. Like, honestly, I think that it is, like I said, it's one of those books where it's like, I feel like if you enjoy reading about, like, the human mind, or if you enjoy reading about, like, feminism, or if you enjoy reading about, like, commentary on society, this is a book that you have to read. I would give it a 10 out of 10. Definitely. I love Sylvia Plath. I think that she is absolutely incredible. I apologize. This video is going to be very long. Okay, the second book that I read in about 2 days. I was visiting my parents, and I finished The Bell Jar, like, very quickly upon getting back, and I brought the book so that I would have something to read while I was there, and I finished that like almost immediately upon getting to my parents' house. So then I was looking at my bookshelf from in my childhood bedroom, and I came across my whole collection of Anita Shreve books. Anita Shreve is like maybe my favorite author. Everything that I've read from her, I'm just like, I absolutely adore your style of writing. I think that I feel like every time I've read one of her books, I've finished it in a couple days because I can't put it down. I just absolutely love the way that she writes. And also like the way she writes a lot about like, like Rhode Island and like the New England coast. And I'm just like, I want to, like, it makes me want to live there. You're writing horrible tragedies and talking about like very sad things, but the way you describe the coastline, I'm like, I'm gonna move there and it will be great. So one of my favorite books is The Weight of Water by Anita Shreve, which I think I'm gonna reread next month. I think that's gonna be one of my books that I'm gonna reread next month. Just because it's been a while since I read it, like many years, but I really liked it. That it's genuinely one of my favorite books. I decided to read another one that I hadn't read before, and it's The Pilot's Wife. And I feel like a lot of people have heard of this book. I unfortunately don't have the hard copy here, like the physical copy, because I finished it and I left it at my parents' house, and I'm obviously no longer there. So, really liked it. One thing I'm gonna say before I get into the book, I really liked the book. Again, I really loved. I just love Anita Shreve's style of writing. I love it. So I always think that books are better than the movie adaptations of the books. Because you can't fit a whole novel into like a 2-hour movie. If you wanted to fit every like detail and every aspect of the plot and every like little bit of character development into a movie would be 5 hours long. If it was like a decent sized novel, like this thick, like this is like an average sized novel, you would have like a 5-hour long movie, and no one's gonna sit through the theater. I mean, I might, but no one's gonna sit through the theater and watch that. Not many. You're not gonna sell many tickets. I get that, But that's why movie adaptations often disappoint me, because they're just not as full of an experience as the book. And that's what I said about My Policeman. I just feel like you just can't fit everything in. And especially if you're like emotionally attached to a character and then you see a movie adaptation of it and the character just does not have any amount of depth, because you just can't get character development that is as deep in movies. I mean, in some cases you can, but I feel like it's very rare, in my opinion. So with that being said, most movie adaptations I feel do not do the book justice. With The Pilot's Wife, I agree with that sentiment, except times 1,000, because no offense to anyone involved in that movie or in the making of that movie, I was reading that book at my parents' house, okay? And my mom was like, there's like a movie based off of that book. And I was like, really? I want to watch it. The movie came out, I think, in 2001. My opinion on that movie, again, no offense to anyone involved in making this movie, that was genuinely the worst film I have ever watched. I will, like, it's like one of those ones where I'm like, well, I'm never going to get that, like, hour and a half back. That time is gone and I've wasted it. My thoughts on the movie, not that this has anything to do with a book review, it's the movie, but I'm just saying because it's the same story. The way that it was filmed, like the cinematography of it is weird, in my opinion. I feel like it's very like bouncy around and not great. I feel like none of the characters felt similar or like behaved in a similar way to how they did in the book, which is fine. Another thing is just the quality was bad. I feel like the acting was not very authentic. Again, no offense. That is my honest opinion. I also feel like they filmed like 45 minutes of content for an hour and a half movie, and they just kept like replaying scenes and like repeating like flashbacks like multiple times. And I'm just like, okay, but I already saw that twice. We don't need it a third time. Like, we don't need to keep showing a thing. So I'm just saying, if you want to watch not a great movie, The Pilot's Wife, I'm sorry, I'm being brutally honest. With that being said, I think the book was fantastic. I'm gonna look and see if I can find like the synopsis online, because I don't have a physical copy, so I can't read it to you. I'm very sorry, but I'm gonna put it here if I can find it. Pause to read. But basically, it's about a woman named Catherine who falls in love with a man who is a pilot, and they have a daughter who's 15. The book starts off with where we learn that, like, this is like first page shit, so I'm not spoiling anything. This is first page stuff. This is the entire like basis of the story. Is Catherine is woken up at like 3 a.m. by some guy who like comes and knocks on her door and is like, hey, there's been a crash, like your husband's plane exploded in the air over Ireland water, and he's dead. Sorry, your husband's dead. His plane literally blew up. So obviously that's devastating. So it starts off with like, hey, here's this trauma that we're giving you. It's fine. You're gonna deal with it. So then throughout the story, basically Catherine is trying to piece together like how this happened. A lot of news reporters were saying that, first of all, his name is Jack. And something that I have learned with movies is don't trust a man named Jack. Don't trust a man named Jack, okay? They're always deceiving you. They're always deceiving you, is what I've learned in these past couple months. Do not trust a man named Jack. So basically, they're saying like, oh, we think Jack might have crashed the plane on purpose, and then, unfortunately, he just killed 104 people with him when he was trying to unalive himself, but that was not the case, blah, blah, blah. It's like a whole thing. Without spoiling or anything, basically Catherine starts uncovering is the word I would say, different aspects of Jack's life that she was not aware of. Basically, like, the moral of the book is you can never, like, how well can you really know someone? You could think, like, you could be married for, I think they were married for like 16 years, and it's like, you could think you know someone and know every aspect of their life if you've been married to them for 16 years, but you can like never be sure. How the whole thing is, how well can you really know someone? Which is very scary and made me have a little bit of an existential crisis, because I was like, oh God, I'm at a point in my life where I'm realizing a lot of people around me are maybe either turning into people that I don't necessarily want to associate with, or they don't necessarily care about me as much as I thought they were. This is not to get sad, I'm just saying. They don't care about me as much as I care about them. Or the relationship and the friendship maybe isn't as glorified as I've been making it. So I was like, ooh, this is a little painful, because yeah, I'm feeling that a little bit in my life. Very good book. Very, very good book. Less good movie. Very good book. I love everything. I love everything that Anita Shreve writes. She's so good. I just adore her writing. I would give the book I would give it like an 8 out of 10. I won't say that it's like perfect, because I feel like it's a little bit, some of it's a little cliche, some of it's a little predictable, some of it's, you know, a little cheesy maybe. But overall, I think it's a good story, and I think it's, again, well written. The hell was that noise? I'm pretty sure I'm home alone. I would say that was probably out of the 3 books that I read this month, though, I think it's probably my least favorite out of the 3, just because I think The Bell Jar is a perfect book. And I'm not sure if that's my favorite or if the next one I'm going to talk about is my favorite, because I actually didn't think I was going to like this next book. And I have a lot of mixed feelings about it, but I think overall it was really good. So moving right along. The next book I got at the Barnes & Noble used section for $7. It still has a sticker on it. And that is Creating Man. This book is gonna be kind of weird to explain. It's not that long. It is 213 pages. Not that long. Bell Jar is how many? Bell Jar is like 244. I think Pilot's Wife is like mid 200s, I would say. So this is a little shorter. I will read the back for you. Creating Man begins where the creation myth leaves off, with the 8th day, when God, through the intervention of the Archangel, I am not religious, I am so sorry, Michael, invents emotion. As each new feeling is brought forth, the novel dissolves into a depiction of that emotion, manifested through the relationship of 2 gay men. We experience hate through the guise of an abusive relationship, guilt with a gay father and son, fear through an athlete publicly outed, pride through the actions of the perfect golden boy. Yet while each relationship is devastated by emotion, each story concludes with the resolution of that emotion, leading to a final episode that is as dramatically intense as it is intellectually stimulating. Creating Man is a novel with much to say about men, love, sex, religion, and spirituality, filled with everyday characters and angels on high. It is a novel that confirms that it is only through love of ourselves and of each other, that we can truly exist as both creations of the divine and within the confines of our own sacred communities. And then it has a little about the author. Michael G. Cornelius was born in the Finger Lake regions of New York State, which I've spent a lot of time in the Finger Lake regions. And there's a couple places where it's like talking about like upstate and western New York. One of the stories is based in Rochester, and I'm like, ooh, I know about that. So if you live in like upstate or western New York, like, it's just cute because it's like, ooh, I know about those places. There's a couple of references to like Buffalo, so I just thought that was fun. So after spending several years moving up and down the eastern seaboard, he has settled in southern Rhode Island. This is his first novel. And this is from 2001, I believe. Nope, copyright 2000. I lied. I'm getting the dates crazy wrong in this video. I have so many thoughts on this here book. So many thoughts. So this is going to be the longest section of this video. I'm sorry. We're already getting long. So I bought this book. It was, like I said, it was $7 at Barnes & Noble. It was used, and I was like, I've never heard of this. Could be fun. I love queer stories. Get very emotionally attached to them. So I read the back and I was like, that is an interesting concept, because it's talking about religion, but then also like it's explaining themes of religion like through gay relationships. And I was like, that is interesting. I would love to see how that plays out. So I bought it because I was like, I need to read this. I will say I am very much not a religious person, and I tend to like kind of have an aversion to organized religion. I don't think there's anything wrong with following a religion and believing in a religion, but the problem that I have is when people try to use their belief system to tell other people how to live their life and tell people like, hey, how you're living is wrong. That is what I have a problem with, because I also don't think that that is what religion is about, and I think people twist words a lot. That's my opinion. That's not what this video is about. But I do have a lot more to say on that. Basically, I feel like you definitely do not have to be a religious person to read this book and to enjoy it and to understand it. I feel like that detail only comes into play because of like the emotion of what the passage is going to be about. Basically, this book is split into 4 stories, and then at the end, as it said on the back, it's like a resolution of those stories. So it kind of has like a final, almost like a final thought, like an ending to all of those stories, which I really liked that style of writing, because you read like the story and then you read other stories and then you come back to it later, which might seem confusing, but I really liked it. So basically, just to give a little bit of a rundown, basically how it is written is it will have like a passage from Genesis, like, you know, like a Bible passage, and the Bible passage will end off with you know, like an emotion that the following story is going to be about. So you read a passage, but again, I don't feel like you need to know the Bible or care about the Bible or even like the Bible in order for you to enjoy this book. Because again, I'm not one of those people that is connected to the Bible at all. So you read a passage from that, and so like the first story is about hatred. The next one is guilt. Third one is fear, I think. Am I correct in thinking that? Third is fear. I just finished this last night. Fourth is pride. So yeah, I just finished reading this book last night, so this is one that's most fresh in my mind, and of course I finished it on the last day of January, so I was like, yes, it's still gonna be in my January book review. My thoughts on this book are, it's definitely like an emotional roller coaster. Like, it has a lot of ups and downs, and it has a lot of downs. My one, I wouldn't even call this a criticism, because I still think that it's typically like good writing, but because it's split into like 4 different stories and they're like just short little things, it's very reminiscent of like, you know, like one-shot fan fiction almost. And that's not to discredit it or to diminish it and like diminish its meaning or anything, but you know what I mean. Anyone who's ever read fan fiction knows that if it's like a one-shot fan fiction, it's not that long. You can't really get too invested in the characters because it's kind of just like, okay, here's this little story and blah, 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 blah. I will say another thing it resembles fan fiction in a lot of cases. It's like, boom, here's a trauma. Oh, you haven't recovered from that yet? Boom, here's another trauma. You know, like, I feel like people in fan fiction are always so traumatized. Like, what is that? Like, are you guys okay? People who are writing fan fiction, like, sometimes I'm like, are you okay? You need maybe a little bit of therapy. Maybe we don't need to write things that are this dark. At least in my experience. But it's fine. Again, this is not for the faint of heart. Definitely not for the faint of heart. The first passage is the darkest. It's the one that talks about like an abusive relationship. So if you're gonna get triggered by like, you know, like domestic violence, R-wording is like a major theme in that one. It's not light, it's not like pleasant, it's very dark and very sad. And that's the one that deals with the theme of hatred. And I think a theme of that one is definitely like internalized homophobia, and then also just being like an abusive person. I wouldn't say that should deter you from reading the book because it's dark. I do definitely think that this is a really good book that is worth reading. The second story, I was very invested in. And then by like the end of it, I was like, oh no. I was yelling at my book. I was like, no, why would you do this? And I was like uncomfy a little bit, like, no. Editor Mars here. Also, another thing is there were a couple of the stories in this, I'm trying to get the lighting right. There were a couple of stories in this, where I was reading, like specifically the second one, which I didn't like the ending, I'm gonna say. I did not like the ending. But, I wanted more. I felt invested in the storyline, and I was like, I want a whole novel about Todd and Jake.
But there were a couple things where it's like I feel like you can't really get invested in the characters because it's so like they're so short little passages. But I still think they're very good. I still think that they are very good, and they still get the emotions across that need to be gone across. That's my little edit.
There were a couple times I get very dramatic when I'm reading. Very dramatic. But I have to be quiet because I have roommates. So I like yell, but like quiet yell in my room. It'll be like 2 a.m. and I'll be like, ah, you know what I mean? That's dramatic. Please, nobody clip that and use that against me. I was like, there were parts of this where I was getting like so angry and like just my emotions were going crazy and I was tired that I bit this book. Like I took this book and I was reading it and I went and I bit the spine. I was having feelings and I didn't know how to express those feelings and get those feelings out, so I bit my book and it hurt my teeth. Do not bite a book. At least this was not hardcover. Do not bite books. It does not feel nice. It hurts. But I did it, so it's fine. But the second one I was very invested in, and then I was uncomfy and not happy with how it ended. The third one was good, but it definitely, it like is written mostly in like press releases or like facts, like, you know, correspondence and stuff like that. So it's maybe a little bit hard to read just because a lot of it is written in like, it's written in like newspaper articles kind of. That's one about an athlete publicly outed. And then the last one was also pretty sad. The last one was very sad too. I think that's the one that made me bite my book. I don't remember, even though I literally finished reading it last night, so I should remember, but it's gone. It's gone out of my brain. But I will say, this is really good. I feel like a lot of it is like how we react to certain things that happen to us, and then how other people react to just like queer issues, gay issues. I don't know. It's definitely like a commentary on society, and it's obviously a commentary on human emotion. And I think it's an interesting concept. Like, I really do think it was an interesting concept. And I've never read a book like this before that was written this way. I would like to read more like this. I want to see if... I know that this was his first book. I want to see if maybe he has more. Because it was very good. I really liked it. I would give this like an 8 out of 10. Because I do think that it's very, like, an important read. And I do think that it's definitely, like, something that everyone should read about, because it has to talk about like queer history and stuff like that. But again, I do feel like a little bit of it was written kind of in the style of like fan fiction almost. And also another thing was like, this might be a little like shocking to a lot of people, but it was like the first chapter and I was like, oh, okay, so we're doing smut. Okay. And then I quickly realized, oh, but this is not happy smut. This is not consensual. This is not pleasant. This is abusive. So that is definitely like, that's something to keep in mind, if you choose to read this, which it's very good. And I do suggest it. But yeah, I would give it like a 7 or an 8 out of 10. Solid. Okay. I'm going to try to wrap this up because I'm running out of time, but that concludes my January book review. I'm going to try to do another one next month. If anyone has any book suggestions, please leave them in the comments because I'm going to be trying to read a lot of books this year. So if you have any suggestions, I don't know, like, subscribe, and leave a comment of a book. Thank you.